What is going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode presented by MWA Monsters with Attitude, the Raw Attitude. I am your host, Eric. Alongside me, my buddy and good friend and good Samaritan,
I don't know about that.
Cole Myers. What's going on, buddy?
I don't know about the Good Samaritan part, but I'm good, buddy. Very good. Excited to talk more kaiju goodness as always. I feel like we opened up a can of worms with all these interviews we're doing, but it's been a blast, and so far everyone's been so interesting, and I'm really excited for today. Talk a little Gorgo, a little Yongary. Should be fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, like it's been crazy getting all these people that are producing kaiju toys in general. Like it's crazy that we're getting this kind of stuff in today's age and stuff like that. And just the stuff that Titanic Creations is bringing out is just, I think it's this untapped thing that, that I think they hit a gold mine, honestly, that we are getting stuff that we've been wanting for years, and we just really haven't had any representation of this stuff, and it's awesome to watch and see. So it's great to be a part of, honestly, as a fan.
It really is, honestly. Like you said, the underrepresented, I guess you could say, kaijus of our childhood or of generations past. I don't want to say too much because there is something I'm going to ask our guest on if he would ever consider making in the future. So I guess I will wait. But yeah, I think it's great what he's doing, and the fact that he started off as a fan and took this initiative, like that's amazing. It's very exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, without further ado, let's not keep him waiting anymore. Welcome to the show, Mac from Titanic Creations. Thank you for being here. I really do appreciate it. And welcome aboard. I'm excited to talk all this kaiju stuff with you.
Yep. Really happy to have for you guys to have me on, and really excited to talk about all the fun things we're doing over here at Titanic Creations.
I just have one question before we start. Will you blink twice if you were kidnapped by a North Korean dictator and forced to make the Yongary figure?
Unfortunately, I was not.
Oh, okay.
And I feel like I'd have more fun stories.
Yeah.
Right. Oh my goodness. So what we kind of like to do on here is kind of get a feel for you as a fan of the kaiju, because obviously, you're a fan, because you wouldn't be doing this stuff if you weren't. So I would like to kind of get your backstory on how you became a fan, what kind of started it off and kind of, put you on this journey that you're going down.
So really, I think it starts where a lot of kaiju fans do, which is I was really into dinosaurs when I was like 3.
Perfect. Yep.
Right. So then, my dad was, just telling me like, there's this dinosaur that breathes fire. And then we ended up, I think it was on HBO or some channel back in the early 2000s. And it was Godzilla versus King Ghidorah came on. I was like, this is perfect. Right. So then I ended up getting my first Godzilla figure back then, and I ended up having far too many Godzilla figures at some point, right? All throughout my childhood, that was basically the birthday, Christmas gift every year. Is if you get a Godzilla figure, it was good. So then, right, a lot of it we go to G Fest, all these things, and then really the starting point of Titanic Creations was we were at G Fest, and this was when the movie Monster series wasn't like being produced anymore. So you had people. This is that kind of right after 2014 to 2018 kind of period there. They so they're not producing these $20 toys anymore, and I remember a lot of times that was a big source of like how you start getting into collecting. Right, was this kind of low end toy, right? But it still kind of looked good. And so then I go to G Fest and I'm looking at these old movie Monster series from the 90s, and they're going for $80. And I'm realizing, a lot of kids who are, excited about Godzilla, they're not going to have the same experience I did. So when we then at that same G Fest, I met Dope Hope, who's an amazing sculptor and does all of our sculpting work. And so I ended up being in contact with him, and we started doing our original ones, which we priced lower. Originally around $25 was the first Titanicus.
Okay.
And we worked through all that, and eventually we kind of felt like we did what we wanted with the original line, and we kind of were trying to think, how can we actually grow this brand and what we're doing? And what we eventually landed on, after talking with Dope Hope and other people in the kaiju community, is people really wanted these old 60s monsters that no one else was even talking about. Gorgo hadn't had a figure since the M1 release. And then very basically had nothing based upon the 1967 version. There's a few based upon the 1999 release, but even those are almost impossible to find anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's very true. Like, I think I've only seen maybe one like statue of Gorgo, other than like the M1 representation. Other than that, like, I've never seen anything. And then of course Yongary, like, absolutely nothing. Just barren, I guess you could say. And maybe that's just because of who made it and stuff like that. And they maybe didn't see long term with it. Who knows. But yeah, like you mentioned, like your original kaiju. Kind of why did you want to start? Like, obviously you said with the Bandai Movie Monster series, they were kind of stopping production and stuff like that. But why, like, other than that, like, was there any other reason why you wanted to kind of make your own figures and creations and stuff like that?
So a lot of it was just, I always had this idea of a monster sinking the Titanic, and there's a model, and there's also the Dark Horse comic of Godzilla sinking the Titanic. My little too focused on details brain was like, well, but he doesn't look like an iceberg, so why would everyone think it was an iceberg? Which, whatever. I was also 14 when I was thinking about this. So Titanicus ended up starting as the first kind of starting point for it, and then we kind of wanted to build out this world where there's other monsters, and Titanicus did well enough that we were able to, explore other unique designs. And so those first four were all kind of just supposed to be this pack, and then we wrote Soul War, and that kind of wrapped it all together in this big war. And really the biggest thing, it gave me a chance to, first of all, learn how to make toys in the first place. That was a big thing because most people, like, I feel like you're like, okay, make 1,000 of this, right? It's easier now with 3D printers to make one, but if you want to make 1,000 of something, it becomes a logistics issue, and it becomes boring business phone calls at 9:00 at night to Chinese manufacturers. So kind of just learning that and creating relationships with manufacturers was really a big part of that. And really a lot of it was just kind of wanting to be able to do it and be able to have that self-expression almost in a way that you don't get to do it very much. Like, I can't draw, I'm not an artist, but I can kind of like talk through what I want. But so that was kind of where the original hope was.
Okay.
Did that kind of lead you into why you created Titanic Creations, or did the original kaiju just kind of spawn after?
So definitely the original kaiju were definitely the original purpose of doing Titanic Creations, because I so much wanted these monsters that had been in my head for so long to exist in some form. But at the same time, like, I realized I'm not going to be able to just make a movie or even make a comic book at first, just because I can't draw, and those people deserve to be compensated for their work, and that's also expensive to commission a book. And then also the books don't sell as well as toys, just as a general rule, especially now since nobody seems to read anymore. I see Joe has a decent collection back there. But
I'm the last one left.
Right. And I think it was just the best way to be able to get these out into the world, and also make something that was an eye catcher at conventions for people to actually see it and be interested enough to invest in us as a company, and also our kind of general mission.
Gotcha. So how did you so you were talking about you wanted to make your own original kaiju. How did you transition into like really wanting to make Gorgo and then Yongary? Like that just kind of popped in your head, or you're like a huge fan of those two, or like anything like that?
So really, it was 2022 is when we started talking about like we need something that we can reach a broader audience, and I don't have to convince every single person of why they should buy this, right? Because so much of when you're selling original things, you have to be on, you have to be selling, you have to be talking about why this is important. It's a lot easier to sell something for things that people already have an attachment to. Same. So that's kind of where we started. And the original idea was we're like, well, we can't afford Godzilla. We can't afford most things, right? Most of these licenses. So what we started doing is we're like, okay, what is the sign that there is no toys of, and we could also possibly do for within our price range? And we ended up finding the license to Gorgo, and it was doable. And we realized there was a market there. As when I talked with Dope about it, he was like, every time I have a print or a poster of Gorgo, everyone seems to want to buy it and they always want to talk about it. So when we went and did that, and I had no idea how successful our first figure with Gorgo was going to be. I was hoping we'd sell like 300 of 300. So I was like, that's great, fantastic. And then we ended up selling 1,000 before they even got here. And that was such a game-changing understanding of what we could do if we went after these obscure licenses that it quickly became, all right, what can we do next? And then eventually it came over to Yongary and, also doing more Gorgo stuff of statues and the little comic book Gorgo right here.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how it went.
Would you walk us through the process of how you researched or how you came across the Gorgo license? I don't know if you've talked about that before. I haven't heard that story.
So really it started, we were just trying to do basic research. So MGM was the distributor of the film in the United States. So we reached out to them. First, they said, not our license, not our problem. So then I was like, okay, who would have an idea of who they contacted? And then BCI, who released the Blu-ray back in, I think, 2012, I was like, okay, well, they clearly know somebody who knows something. So we reached out directly to them, and they're like, oh, yeah, we just bought the license off of some camera guy who said he had it still.
What?
Wow.
And
all right.
Then I was like, okay, well, do you have like paperwork? And they're like, well, he quit claimed it to us. So there's no, like, he didn't have documentation that he had it. And it was kind of a messy process, which is part of the reason it was more affordable, because we took on the risk of potentially a lawsuit for doing it.
Yeah.
Right. So, but we got paperwork with them, and then that's how it kept going, was just working with them and getting everything approved. They were beyond helpful. They had a lot of archives of old footage and everything. If you ever had the VCI Blu-ray release, it's actually very in-depth with the amount of add-ons it has, especially for an underappreciated film like Gorgo. But that was kind of the process. And it's kind of how the process for all these goes, is you end up contacting someone and they tell you no, and then you go to find someone who might know. And that kind of just is this, spinning wheel of things.
Oh, that's crazy.
That is
crazy. So he legitly had the rights for it, just a camera guy. He had the paperwork and everything.
So my understanding is the camera guy, after the producer director of it died, they were close friends, because he was a cinematographer on the film.
Oh, okay.
And they were close friends, and then he gave it to him, and then the camera guy was about to die, and he ended up just giving it over to VCI for a little bit of extra money to give his kids towards the end. And yeah, so that's the problem with a lot of these, is that they just get lost, and it's some random person who has the rights to these. And it's part of the reason I think that there isn't a lot of Gorgo figures out there, is just because no one, because most of these people have licensing agents who go around, to studios and talk to people about it. And if these major studios don't have it, then it's hard to figure out who actually does.
Wow,
that's insane.
That is a crazy little story, that just some cameraman had this treasure just sitting with him, and he's like, yeah, I got it,
Yeah, but it's just here.
Yeah, it's just here. If you want it, you can have it.
It's crazy. It's absolute. You just don't hear that. I mean, things were the wild west back in the old days, I guess, right? Where, I mean, could you imagine if, Captain America's license was just in the hand of the guy that, held up the lights for the Winter Soldier or something like that? Like, that's just crazy. It's absolutely insane.
Yeah.
It's fascinating.
Oh my goodness gracious.
Well,
yeah, let's oh, sorry.
No, I was just kind of agreeing with you. That's a very strange situation.
And I wonder, like, that could even probably be even more the norm, honestly, because I mean, I think a lot of the stuff, like, it just gets lost and it's just, hard to find, and no one knows what happened to it, honestly. And it's probably just stuck in someone's trunk, in their house, in their attic, that's just laying there, like it's just super crazy stuff like that. Like the whole King Kong licensing thing, which is, we've heard rumors, we've heard stories about who has it, who doesn't, and whatever. Like, who knows where that stuff could be? It's just, it's mind-boggling, honestly.
Right, and it's just so many of these people, like, you end up realizing it goes to a kid who might have not even been like great friends with their dad or something, who owned the rights, and then like they just don't want to talk about it ever again. That's part of the issue.
Oh.
And just to think of the fact that they maybe could have been making money for decades. I mean, maybe not, millions and millions of dollars, but nice little extra chunk of change, buy you a new car every few years or something. If they would have known, or if it was more known, I guess I should say, and they could have licensed this out and had, maybe more movies or even some figures or T-shirts or something, it's honestly, it baffles my mind. That's crazy.
Yeah, and it's amazing to me how, because I don't think anyone really before we released our figure was like, the Gorgo, that's a pretty big license, because I mean, the 4K release came out after we put the figure up.
Okay,
and it was doing well, and then there's a few. We've done all of the Gorgo stuff outside of that, but it was very strange how there was like there was a DVD that came out, there was our toy, and it kind of accumulated in this big project that I didn't actually see coming at all.
Yeah, it's just kind of like a happy coincidence, honestly. Like, you guys could kind of feed off of each other, and maybe the success that they're like, okay, we're both gonna benefit from this because we're both putting out this product that people have been longing for, and now they're just like, yep, we're just gonna eat it all up.
Right.
It's crazy. Well, I do want to jump into Gorgo. Obviously, we're talking about Gorgo now, and one of your newer releases coming up is the comic book colorway. Explain why did you go with the comic book colorway instead of like maybe like abstract kind of colors or a crazy kind of colorway that you kind of typically see for a alternate color?
Really, the biggest thing is we wanted to be able to do this at a high enough volume that we could lower the price on it from the $9.99. So we're selling this guy for $60. And really, the comic book color was close enough to what we originally did, but it's clearly distinct. And also, the Ditko comics are a major, popularity source for Gorgo. And we talked about some other colors that we might do in the future. Like, we wanted to do a pink one as a Mother's Day release. That was one of them. There's also a page in the comic book where he's red and he breathes fire, so that after he gets nuked, I think, one of the issues. So that's another one we want to do. But I think really we just needed something that was another kind of wider release, as we wanted to have some figures available at G-Fest this year, because we actually only have ever had our own figures at G-Fest, which is kind of strange because last year we had Gorgo there, but he didn't ship for another 2 months. And
yes,
really, we really hope that him and the 30 centimeter Gorgo are going to be really big hits this year.
Oh, I believe it. Like, me personally, I have ordered the 30 centimeter Gorgo, and I cannot wait for that because to me, I like the bigger figures. Like I'm a fan of the 30 centimeter and stuff like that. So man, when you guys announced that, I was all on board. I was like, hell yeah, like this is exactly my jam. This is exactly what I want and everything, and I cannot wait to get it in hand. Are they shipping soon for the 30 centimeters?
I just actually got confirmation from my customs broker about they're supposed to get to LA on May 22nd, and then they usually take about a week to get here. So that last week of May is when those will all go out. So you should expect it to arrive. My guess is the first week of June.
Okay.
Now, so it's taken a little bit longer than I would have liked, just because it's a much bigger box. And if anyone knows, when we released our 30 centimeter Titanicus with resin, there's this issue where the horn kept breaking off. And so I was pretty hard about the drop testing on this Gorgo figure. And so that ended up delaying things a little bit. And then I made the mistake of putting that up in October when right before, and we didn't get 200 as quickly as I wanted to. And so we ended up starting production right before Chinese New Year, which so it ended up being like a really unfortunate thing. That means that the time frame of this go a little bit longer than I originally anticipated.
Yeah,
I'm with Eric. I also ordered the 30 centimeter Gorgo from you guys. I can't wait. I think that's To me, like I'm like Eric. I like the bigger figures, and you can see them more. They seem to grasp people's attention more on a shelf or whatever. I'm super excited. Can't wait for it.
Yeah, and I really understand.
Do you think you do other colorways for the 30 centimeter?
Maybe it's just going to kind of depend on like how quickly we get rid of the rest of the main colorway. We probably want to, just because it's a really, when you get it, you're going to see like this is a very, very impressive figure. It's 30 centimeters, but it's actually 13 inches tall. So it's a little bit taller than 30 centimeters. It's a significant piece. And if you have this little guy, he basically looks like the baby next to it because he's coming up to about the thigh on this guy. But even like this figure, yet the one here on the left is the final paint. And literally the great thing about the larger scale is you're able to do more minute details in the paint. So at 15 centimeters and the articulation, like the belly is more monotone, right? But here you can see how it kind of fades with the green a little bit better, like it does in the film. So that I really like doing the big figures because they get to look more like museum pieces when they get here instead of toys. I love toys, but also I don't touch them very often. They end up staying on the shelf.
Yep.
So sometimes it's nice to just have something that's really big and awesome.
Before you continue, Eric, there's a nope, that's not it. There was a question. Oh, here it is. From Morg Chris, are you going to continue your own kaiju line as well as go after more? Oh, I'm sorry. I can't read very well today. Are you going to continue your own kaiju line as well as go after more licensed kaijus?
So the plan is we want to do more original kaiju. Really the biggest stepping stone to that is we're going to see how our articulated Titanicus does in the end of summer, really, because what we found is the articulated line makes more sense for us to focus on, as that's a much larger collectors group. And obviously those are not going to be even produced at 1,000. They're going to be much smaller quantities, as I can't keep all these in my garage for as long as but the goal is to continue to grow both the original line and the licensed line.
Another quick side note, Eric, sorry to keep interrupting you. Are you you said you will be at G-Fest this year?
Yep, we're gonna have a table again there this year. And
will you have more of your original kaiju at G-Fest as well as these Gorgos?
Yep. So we should have all 4 of the original ones. We still have some of those in stock. We'll have Soul War. We'll have the 30 centimeter Gorgos, the comic book Gorgos. Also at the table will be the production sample of Yongary.
Ooh, nice.
The prototypes of the articulated Titanicus and Pulgasari figures. Both of those will be there.
Ooh.
And then there's one other Gorgo surprise that we're working on that I can't yet talk about because it's not.
Ooh.
Did I hear correctly? Was that a little slip up, or did you hear what I heard, Eric? There's Pulgasari coming down the pipe.
Yep. So that one, the plan is the Yongary funding goal ends on June 30th. And then the end of July, we're going to put Pulgasari up to be funded with the plan of Pulgasari and Yongary both shipping out at the same time.
Oh, wow.
All right.
It's going to be a massive undertaking.
Yeah, so I'm, as the person who ships all these, it's always a fun.
Do you have plans to do like a 30 centimeter Yongary or Pulgasari?
So we probably will do a 30 centimeter Yongary. Probably. We have to renegotiate the license as they didn't want to do a running total. So kind of inside baseball stuff here. Like most licenses, it's like 5% of each sale with a minimum guarantee that you pay up front and then you back. So if it's like 5% of $100, you pay $5,000 up front as a guarantee, and then you only go further along if you go over 1,000 units. So then you're not paying that 5% continually. But with the Yongary people, it's just this family out in Korea, and they didn't want to have to keep track of books every month of how sales are coming. So they just wanted to do, you pay this amount to do this amount of figures. Okay. And so we did that. And so we think we'll be able to do a 30 centimeter one, but it'll just have to be a new contract of, hey, we're doing a new toy and we need to pay up front for it, which is, it's fine. It just takes longer to get some of these things done.
Gotcha.
Interesting.
Gotcha.
Okay. Sorry for interrupting you, Eric.
Absolutely no worries. There's actually another quick question from Marvin. He wants to know any restocks for the original Gorgo.
So currently at this time, we are not planning to restock the original Gorgo. A lot of that is just because of the fact that when I put it up there, was saying this was a limited release and that those 1,000 shouldn't be reissued. We might do a version that looks very similar, but it won't come with all the accessories. But that still won't be until 2025 or 2026, just because at some point we need to also have a break between Gorgo being up there, right? Just because at some point I think everyone's going to run into Gorgo fatigue.
Gotcha. Makes complete sense. Well, with the Gorgo, fatigue is not stopping anytime soon. You guys are making a graphic novel for Gorgo, and I believe this is supposed to be a prequel to the movie. Am I understanding correctly?
Yep, that is correct. So me and Patrick McAvoy, who he also worked on Soul War and World War Kaiju, one book I wrote, so I really like it, and the other book that inspired Soul War greatly. I don't know if anyone's ever read it. It's really good. But so we worked on this book. It takes place before the Gorgo film, and really what we wanted to talk about in this book is we look at Gorgo's father and kind of, understand the dynamics of their parents and like kind of what happened to Gorgo's father and kind of what happens before the film and why the mother is so attached to the baby and why that relationship is so important, and give more context to that.
So is it a made up story, or is this like information like that has truth to it, I guess you could say, with the dad and everything, or is this just your guys' own made up story of that?
So it's a mixture of both. We take a lot of elements that were scrapped from the original film,
Oh, okay.
So we have more time on Nara Island where we kind of talk about the like people who inhabit it, and a lot of that was added on late. It was scrapped just because we need to be like an hour and 15. And then in the original one, Gorgo fights the Kraken. But a lot of the things with the dad, these are all new things that we're adding on, kind of just because we needed some sort of a new story to tell. And Gorgo isn't technically, as a comic book character, not a licensed commodity, as the Ditko ones are actually in the public domain. So it gives us a little bit more leeway to kind of tell a story we wanted to tell.
That's really exciting. I as you pointed out, I'm a big reader, big fan of comic books and graphic novels, and I'm excited for this. I just think there's so much more that you can flesh out in graphic novels sometimes than a movie, and you can get a little crazier too, where the budget of the special effects or whatever might hinder you. In a book or a graphic novel, it's the imagination is your limit.
Yeah, and I think it's really, I'm grateful that Patrick works with us. As you can see in the artwork here, he has a great job,
top-notch.
And he's done stuff for Call of Cthulhu and DC and Marvel, and really the fact that he works on these projects with us makes it possible for us to actually put these books out in a high enough quality that it's worth people flipping through and reading.
Oh, absolutely.
Is this going to be like a separate ordering type thing that'll be coming up here in the future?
So this is going to go up on Zoop on May 23rd. So Zoop is like a Kickstarter just for comics. And the biggest thing about Zoop that I really like is they don't take on projects that they think aren't going to be funded and not be able to be funded, but fulfilled in a timely manner to customers. And they take care of all the printing and fulfillment so that when you guys order from them, the book's going to get there. It's going to be shipped in a high quality way. You're not having to worry about, oh God, is this just some person who doesn't know what they're doing?
Yeah.
Kickstarter, right? Because I think everyone's back to Kickstarter and been like 3 years later, whatever happened to that?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. Zoop
I think we've
had a
all
lot of the
been there.
advantage. Yeah, and so the biggest thing is that Zoop has a lot of the advantages of the Kickstarter model, where people get excited and want to back. Same way we're doing with our Yongary figure right now, but it's not the same risk of having to worry about, is this thing actually ever really going to get to me?
That honestly, that is super reassuring, because like you just said, with Kickstarter, there has been a lot in the past where it just doesn't, it gets funded, but then you don't ever see anything from it and your money is just kind of gone. So that's, like I said, reassuring and has me in good spirits that, when you do order this, you're going to get your actual product. So
right. I think it's just one of those things where I think people are so concerned always about anything with crowdfunding that it just becomes an issue.
Yeah. Now, is this going to be like a series comic, or is this going to be like a one-off?
The goal is, if this sells well, to do 2 more books. So this is a 60-page book, and each one following would be 60 pages. So it'd be 180 pages is the total. And answering the question on the screen about if it would be a diamond release, we hope so. A lot of that just depends on finding a distributor who will work with us after the funding.
The fact that this is 60 pages and you want to do 2 more, I think that's amazing. There's been, excuse me, there's been several graphic novels or comic books that I backed on Kickstarter, and I don't know, maybe in my excitement I didn't realize or whatever, but for paying $30, you're thinking, okay, I'm going to be getting a great graphic novel, and it ended up being just the size of like a normal comic issue, and you're like, I'm sorry, what the hell did I just buy? So $60. I'm sorry, $60. 60 pages. That's fantastic. It's going to be a nice thick book. makes it worthwhile. Is I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Oh yeah, and I mean, the good news about this is all done already. The entire book has been illustrated and colored.
Oh
So
wow!
it should, after it gets funded, basically go to printing immediately. So I think it's going to be 2 months on the campaign, and then after that, it should be about 3 weeks before you receive it.
Mac, you are on top, man. You need to be running some of these big corporations because they can't get their shit together, man. That's good for you, dude. Honestly.
It's just so much of it just because of the success of the Gorgo figure. It lets us, pay ahead of some of the other things.
Devo's wondering, are you guys planning on making a Gorgo Yongary crossover?
Ooh.
That's a great question, Devo.
I'd really want to, and I think after you read book 1, you'll understand the possibility of where that makes sense.
Oh.
Yongary being a Korean kaiju that's taking place during the 50s, this book, and kind of you can see the next step of how those two could run into each other, potentially, especially after the end, and especially after you see the villains in the book being, Soviets and all these other, Cold War things going on.
I'm going to say it now. Okay. I'm going to make the executive decision for MWA. Mac, I say that MWA and Titanic Creations, we just join forces and we just buy the rights to Gorgo and Yongary ourselves. So we can make Gorgo versus Yongary and we can make our own movies and we'll become the next Spielbergs and, Mark Saraceni's and the authors and all this stuff, and we'll become millionaires and we'll go buy an island and you let me know. I'll have my people call your people.
For sure. I really am so excited about how much people love these old monsters, and really one thing we've always talked about doing is this kind of, if we can keep growing this where we kind of have these figures and then we can make kind of like this obscure verse in comics, right, where you have
my god,
that's perfect.
Mac,
that's perfect.
A man after my own heart. What is happening right now? I'm like giddy. I'm like, send me the link early, I'll fund it myself. And then
did you was there a price for the comic that'll be coming up, or is that just wait for a pre-order kind of thing?
I think it's going to be, I don't take my word on this, it was either $14.99 or $9.99. I think we were still going back and forth on which one works better,
but still very manageable.
$15 for a 60-page If I am going to fund this myself, Mac, like legitimately, this is amazing. That's a great price.
If you want to feel better, our original book Soul War is actually on our site now for $12.99, and that's 180 pages. If you guys, I'm sure Joe's already read it. So
I was gonna say, I'm pretty sure he bought it from you last year at G Fest. Honestly,
boom.
See, Joe knows what's up.
Oh, that's great. That's exciting. I'm really excited for that, and I hope you hit your goal, because I would love to see the other two and stuff like that. Because that's like Joe said, that's getting me giddy, because that's this. Like we talked about, just untapped thing that we haven't done. Plus, you're putting your own spin on it and adding other things from maybe other kaijus or other things. Like, oh man, that's very exciting. Like that's what I think have been missing in fandom for I think a little while now, is just something new and something exciting like that, where we possibly could be crossing things over. And people love to see that stuff, and they are willing to spend their hard-earned money to see it, honestly.
Yes. Back in the day, I don't know if you guys remember the website Rodan's Roost.
Yeah.
Okay.
I do.
So they had like a kaiju fan fiction, Godzilla fan fiction section. And there was this series of fan fictions written by a guy named C.L. Werner, and in one of his stories, it was a Godzilla versus Bagan. Anyways, long story short, he brought in Gorgo and Yongary and some of these like more quote unquote obscure, not just Toho monsters, but British or Korean or whatever. And it was so cool because we don't have anything, and I just think this is a great idea, and it's not so often that you get so giddy about something like this, because it truly is kind of groundbreaking. I don't know any other way to say it, because we just haven't gotten anything in so long. I guess there was originally Gorgo comics, right? Back in like the 70s or something like that. But I mean, let's be honest. Who read those? I mean, I'm a huge fan. I haven't read those. Like, I wouldn't even know where to begin to look for them, So I just think this is awesome.
Recently got reissued.
Oh.
I did not know that.
I don't know who.
Was it somebody talking about that?
PS Printing, I think, is who did it. But you actually can buy them all on Amazon now, just as one big collection.
Really?
Wow.
Okay, nobody buy that one. Everyone buy Max, and then if you want, you can buy the other one on Amazon.
Yeah. First things first.
Guys, we got to do new stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Right. New stuff. New and exciting. All right. Well, let's move on to Yongary. He's kind of the man of the hour. He is the one that the talk of the town. Realistically, honestly, for as weird of a movie this is, and and just campy as it is, I'm really excited that this is being made, because I'm big on getting a representation on all like kaiju in my collection in some way. And I've really been on that kind of hunt in like the last year or so. And this is going to fill another void.
Absolutely. It is like the weirdest, most, I don't know, awkward movie in the world, but it's like so fun at the same time.
Yeah, it's like, in other words, like why? Yeah, no, go ahead.
No, sorry. Really, I think the biggest thing just talking about Yongary is it's the monster is very interesting, right? But it is such a bizarre movie, and
yes,
the beats don't make sense in a lot of ways, and it's a fun watch for sure.
It is. If you're a fan of even like Showa Godzilla or Showa kaiju movies in general, Showa Gamera, this is right up your alley, because this is just one of the weirder takes for a kaiju movie, and I'm here for it. Honestly, I really am, because it's ridiculous, but it's also fun at the same time, and it's exactly what I wouldn't picture myself growing up on if I was older. But like I still like today, like I love the Showa era. It's just it's my jam, honestly, and I go back to it all the time. For anything, for Godzilla, Gamera, I mean Yongary, I mean any of this stuff, like that's exactly what I love to watch and everything. I'm so excited that you guys are doing this figure.
Yeah, and I think something that's so like interesting about talking about these older monsters is we get phone calls from people when these go up, because a lot of people are in their 60s, and that's how most people in their 60s communicate, because that's how did it. But like we with Gorgo, there was this really lovely old lady who was in her, I almost want to say 80s. She called us to make sure that her order went through, and
Shut up.
I ended up talking on the phone for an hour, and she was telling me how Gorgo just meant so much to her, because she was sick in the hospital, and after she got out, the first thing they did as a family is went and saw Gorgo, and she was saying how like when she got the figure, it like made her cry just because of how nice it was to finally have something to remember that memory from. And I find like so many people, especially with all these older monsters, is there are deep-rooted emotional connections to these movies that a lot of people disregard as bad, that like cause people to be like very attached to them. And it's kind of always been sad to me hearing these stories how no one had a chance to have anything in their life that they could like feel like they have that memory on a shelf, or something that was connected to them.
Yeah. I mean, but honestly, you should feel proud though too at the same time, because you're giving these people that opportunity
Yeah.
to have something that they absolutely connected with and love. I mean, I'm the same way with Godzilla. Like, I'm so connected to Godzilla. It's like I mean, friend Leslie Chambers, he makes fun of me because I don't like watching the sadder Godzilla movies. Well, I don't like to see Godzilla die. I'm sorry, but like I have such a connection with him that I don't want to see him suffer or die in any single way, or even be beaten for that matter. So I completely get what they're feeling and understand. So
I mean, speaking to that, just kind of as my own personal anecdote,
yeah.
like I remember, so I had watched almost all of the Godzilla movies, and this was 2003, so I wasn't very old. But we're taking a train back from Chicago, just as a trip visiting family there. Going back in the gift shop, there's the DVD for the 1998 Godzilla, and I had never seen one of the Godzilla movies where Godzilla dies before, right?
Okay.
And my dad had to explain to me, I was like, he's not really the same kind of Godzilla. And I was about the movie until the end, and I was like, what's this? Godzilla doesn't die. And I remember I didn't watch that movie for like 10 years after that, just because of that negative memory of watching it on a train. So I completely understand your sentiment of not wanting to see Godzilla die at all.
Well, even that movie, like the way he died. I mean, even me, like I was what, 13 when it came out in theaters and stuff like that. And me like watching it, I was like, he died from that? Like, what is this? Like, he's not supposed to die from jets. Like, he swats them out of the sky like gnats. Like, what's going on here?
What is this?
Yeah, what is this? He's tangled in a bridge? What's going on? He's supposed to walk through it. Oh my goodness. But yeah, this is the, I believe, box art that was produced by Matt Frank for the Yongary figure. Kind of talk to us about the working with Matt and everything, because I think he did the Gorgo one, the articular one, right?
Yep. So really, when we were talking about doing these figures, our biggest thought was, okay, we need to make sure this is what everyone will love. And I don't think there's a single kaiju artist out there right now who is as renowned as Matt Frank. He is the Godzilla guy, basically. I mean, IDW uses him. Basically, if you're making a Godzilla comic book or a kaiju comic book, he gets an alternate cover without question. And really, the way the original Gorgo box turned out was so perfect and kind of an encapsulation of what our goal was, always with the clear see-through boxes, which is that it looks like it's a cityscape wrapped around the figure inside of the box. And really, when we talked to Matt about doing this, he loves this, what we're trying to do here too, of doing obscure on, outside the box, kaiju. And really, he also makes Yongary look a lot better than I think Yongary's ever looked. He's he's really tightened up the gut, the tail's a little bit more bendable than it ever was in the movie. And really, I think his artwork just speaks to the genre, and it just stands out in a collection. And we really hope to keep working with him. And eventually, when we've done 10 of these, it'll look like a really great lineup on your shelf where you have all these amazing figures in front with amazing box art as well.
Yeah, absolutely. That would be really cool.
Can you tell us how you acquired the license to Yongary, kind of like you did with Gorgo?
So the starting process for this is we sent out a thing on Twitter. I was like, if anyone has any ideas how to get this or Reptilicus's license, send us a DM and we'll go from there. So we got information on both of those, and the one that ended up moving forward the most was Yongary. So what we ended up getting, Elijah Thomas is who reached out, and he had friends over in Korea who knew, and so then he connected us with them. And so there's this group of kaiju enthusiasts in Korea who they're all about Yongary and their stuff. They're the
Wow.
hosts, all of them. That's like their thing. And they told me that the agent for Yongary was the Korean Film Authority. So then we had to contact the Korean Film Authority, and we spent about 2-3 months going back on emails just because it's a 12-hour time difference, and also their film authority, they usually just license out clips. Right, so them having to talk through all this and translate my email to Korean, then send it to another person. And I was playing a game of telephone for, 3 months. And then eventually they were like, here's what we want to do. And I was like, great, sign the contract, sent over the check. And we went over and got really excited. They loved the sculpt. They're like, this looks fantastic. The other thing they really wanted is they wanted to have 3 to put up in their like little museum they have there at some point.
Okay.
So really it was a more straightforward process than with Gorgo, but at the same time, it really was exciting that they trusted us enough to make this figure for them.
For sure.
That's really cool. And I know we've had him on the show. You worked with Dope Pope to get the sculpt for Yongary and Gorgo. How great is Joe? Like, honestly.
I mean, he's honestly, this is kind of a funny story. I mean, I first started talking to Joe back in 2017, actually. And, I commissioned him, right? And it really wasn't a friendship, mostly. It was just, a business transaction. And then over the years, he's become one of my best friends. We talk almost every day about this stuff and kind of what he wants to do next and kind of what sculpts he wants to do. And he's actually been working on a few other licenses that we haven't finished yet. So I'm not going to put my boot in my mouth. But he is absolutely fantastic. I don't think, when I talk about putting together an A team of people who do kaiju, Matt Frank for box art and then Dope Pope for the sculpt, it's hard to find a more competent team to make a kaiju figure than those two.
Yeah, we had Dope Pope on like a week or two ago, and first time that we've ever had a chance to kind of talk face to face, and great guy, great conversation, and super talented. Wow.
And it seems to me like you and him share that love for the obscure, unknown kaiju, honestly.
Yeah, and the great thing about what Dope Pope does is he's so good at, like, this figure, just speaking of it here, is it looks exactly how it looks in the film, but at the same time it has like this weird, like, it's been punched up just a little bit so it looks more appealing on a shelf, because so many of these lower budget films, right, you can see here like the paint app that we're doing on this, and the fact that he doesn't have as much of a gut, and then also the tail, we did a little bit of difference on, because in the movie it's a circle and it looks really strange and somewhat phallic, and on ours it's a little bit more pointy.
Yep.
So these are just little tiny details. Like, if you look at it, it'll be a little bit different than the film, and a lot of that is also just because there's no like reference suit to pull from. It's all just having to watch the film, and Dope Pope does such a good job of just watching through them over and over and over again to make sure it's the exact way.
We're doing this Yongary. Any plans to maybe do reptilian Yongary?
So the goal would be, yes. The issue
cool.
that we've ran into is that the director of that film and Dragon Wars, he is currently not wanting to be very public because he has tax issues with the South Korean government, and so he's not answering his emails. And we've had the Korean Film Authority says they've tried reaching out to him. The group of fans say they've tried reaching out to him. Basically, no one knows where the guy is. He's completely MIA. And we're hoping, that will change, and maybe he'll see this figure go up and how successful it is, and he'll be like, great, I can get out of tax trouble. This is my path. Right.
Yeah, right.
But I'm hopeful. The issue is that they're actually two different licenses because Reptilian is in Korean is Yongary with 2 G's, not Yongary with 1 G. So that would be great. I also would love to do Dragon Wars figures. I thought that movie was terrible, but I like the
Oh, you're so right, though. You're so right.
A movie is so bad that it's good.
Yeah.
That's one of those movies that I remember from like the Dark Ages where there was no new Godzilla, right? And I was like, giant monster movie, we got to go see it.
Yes.
There's only 2 screenings, and it's at 10 a.m. in the morning on a Thursday.
The time that was not wanted by anybody else. They're like, yeah, here's Dragon Wars. Oh my god, that's awesome.
My goodness.
And yeah, and like you were saying, like there is subtle changes in this sculpt and stuff like that. I mean, you can even tell by from the movie. The movie he was more upright, you know, as in like man in suit kind of thing. I love that he's more hunched over. His legs are even bent a little bit more. It just looks more natural, I guess. And it looks super real, more reptilian too. Obviously, you know, the suit isn't the best representation, but you know, it is what it is. But yeah, this is definitely a step up from the suit, and even a comment in the chat from Samson. Oh, not that one. Where'd he go? This one, where he was talking about the fire breath and the subtle paint from like the blue to the orange. Like, I agree. I absolutely love that because it looks like that flamethrower from his mouth. And it's just, it's so screen accurate. I mean, I applaud you guys for that.
So if the one thing that you can't really see in any of these pictures, maybe in the bottom right, you can kind of see it. So Yongary in the film has a pipe in his mouth. He literally has a pipe. And on the figure, we've kept that. His metal pipe is actually still inside the mouth. So when you open it up, you will be able to see the little metal pipe that is the flamethrower. And so that's going to be, I find that hilarious just because I don't think
absolutely.
Absolutely. And also from a utilitarian standpoint, it makes it so it's easier to hold the fire breath in his mouth.
Mm-hmm.
It's practical. See, it's practical.
Practical effects right there.
Yeah, right before your eyes. Oh, I love it. And I think lastly, we'll kind of talk about is your stretch goals. Now, I know we've already hit the 250, we've hit the 3, we've hit the 350, is great and everything. But we're looking for 4, 5, and 6, and even beyond. How did you come up with these stretch goals, and why did you pick the things that you did?
So the first 2 were kind of, you have to have it to make it a good figure, right? Your flame breath, laser horn. These are things that all kaiju figures should come with. And I'm speaking to SH Monster Arts about how if you have a figure that's supposed to be an articulated figure, you should have a flame breath for Godzilla that ships with the figure as a standard, like it was 10 years ago. But I digress. And then the laser horn is another big one. The helicopter was the first vehicle we wanted to do just because at the end of the film, that's how they kill him, by throwing itchy powder on him. And then the kid gets to go be like, wait a second, I don't feel like that was very nice. Yeah. But so the rescue helicopter, this is not what the final paint app will look like. It'll look like how it looked in the film. Okay. But also this helicopter, you got to remember, it's going to be really, really small. And we've already trimmed up these blades to be a little bit thinner. But again, right, at some point when you're talking about a 3-centimeter helicopter, some things have to be, moved around. Yep. And it'll look great on the shelf. And then kind of going from that, we wanted to do the tanks because on one hand, it's a set of 3. So you're going to get 3 tanks when we hit 400, which should be, my guess is tomorrow at the latest. Nice. But really, they're a great shelf builder, even if you're not wanting to display them next to Yongary. So if you have a set of SH Monster Arts or NECA or Haya toys, these will look fine next to them, and they're really going to be great. We're going to make it so the head on the tank turn, so it's going to be a nice, solid add-on. And those are great things to have in our arsenal to be able to, when we release more figures in the future, we can be like, hey, we can just throw the tanks in there, and for free. And I'm not saying we're going to do that, because specifically the jets, we did have a jet set with the original Gorgo, but those didn't turn out exactly the way I wanted them to, especially the stand, because if anyone watches any of the reviews, everyone was upset about how hard it was to balance them. People did figure it out, though. I want everyone to know at some point when everyone did get into balance, it just don't touch them or look at them funny. But these ones also, it's a completely different jet that you see in Yongary. So these are all going to be a brand new sculpt. And so the jet sets could also come with a new stand that we hope will hold them up better. And then the oil tankers is, because this is similar to how Gorgo kills, Big Ben destroys. Yongary is a heavy drinker and needs his oil in the morning. So the plan is with these is there's going to be two that there's going to be three of them, and you're going to be able to display them, and then the tops are going to be able to be taken off, so you can dip your Yongary in, so he can look like he's drinking out of them on the shelf.
That's awesome.
That's very cool.
That's awesome.
So those kind of going to 600 were the thought process on all of those.
Okay.
And then the gate, which is a major cultural significance to the Korean people, and it's also a landmark that it makes it so it's clearly distinct as a Korean monster, the same way that Big Ben is a great way to put next to Gorgo to distinguish the country of origin. And so this gate, the one here, we've updated a little bit to lower this backside just so it looks more like the film. Yeah. So that's already fixed, in case anyone, it was two people from South Korea who were like, that is not the right gate. And I was like, oh crap.
Oh, right, gotcha. Mm-hmm.
So that got fixed already. So that's going to look just like how it does in the film here. And we didn't make that one destructible just because it doesn't get destroyed in the film, because Yongary walks up to it, he looks at it, and he goes, I'm good.
Yeah, and he turns around.
Doesn't even touch it. And I'm like, okay, great. Nope. And then the goal is, if we can hit 800, we want to make the destructible bridge as this really big piece. Yeah, it's going to be 20 centimeters long, and you'll be able to destroy it, but also you'll be able to put your tanks on the bridge to kind of display them there. And then hopefully on top of that, we'll have a peg you can put your jets on. So that can kind of be your home base for your Yongary set.
That's amazing. Like my inner kid is jumping for joy right now, because that's the stuff that I used to do, where I would bring makeshift things and make makeshift bridges so they could get destroyed and everything. I would find whatever I could to make like a diorama like area, so then like my monsters could fight each other. And like, you're making kids' dreams come true right now, honestly. Like this sounds amazing.
And I think so much of what we want to do, and the reason we want all these accessories, and first of all, it helps us, drive more orders. I'm not going to be oblivious to the business aspect of this, but also the better we do, the more we can give away, because the price is the price. But if we get to 800 orders, everyone gets more stuff, right? So, you guys share, you tell people about it after you order, right? All you're doing is giving yourself more stuff, right? And at the end of the day, what we want to be able to ship something that for $100 is the best value that you'll possibly get in the kaiju collecting space.
Wow, that's
absolutely.
I'm sold. I'm a fan. I want it all.
So I know we're wrapping up here soon. We don't want to take too much more of your time, but I do have one last final question, if that's okay.
Okay.
Dream project. You've worked on Gorgo. You've worked on Yongary. You've done your own kaiju. If you could carte blanche, the answer is going to be yes to whoever it is you ask. What's your dream project to work on next?
So there's it's a dream. It's kind of a hard way to put it, just because I know
it's a reality coming soon.
I know 2 of them that I really am happy about that we're going to do next year.
Okay.
That I don't want to talk about until they're done, because if I talk about it, then and nothing to say bad happens. But the 2 really far out there ones that we want to do. The first one is Cloverfield. If we can get the rights to Cloverfield, it'll be the best figure we can ever make, just because the Hasbro one came out with the film, and now if you want to get it, it's damn near $1,000.
Yep.
The other big one is I really want to do a giant claw figure. Really to make a giant flying battleship of a figure.
Yes.
With his big googly eyes and doofiness everywhere. And then the only other thing is we would love to be able to do a few Godzilla projects with Toho. I mean, if we could do a War of the Gargantuan set, some of these things that don't ever get talked about, right? Or, I mean, there's some other crazy ideas I have, but those are kind of the ones that I always think like those would be.
So I'm glad you brought up Godzilla, because I am going to throw this out there, and I'm going to speak it into existence. Eric, you already know where I'm going with this.
I do.
Godzilla, the animated series.
Right. So my understanding of the issue with getting one of those done is that it's a Sony, and I think it's because it's multiple licensors, right? Because Toho owns the rights to Zilla, but I think to call it an animated series, I think even Fox has some vested interest in it because it was aired on Fox, and then Sony worked on it. But if we could do a series of those, right, where you have Zilla, you have the Cyborg Zilla, you have, and then that has also a great rogues gallery.
Yes. The C-Rex, Robo Yeti, the Leviathan. Yes, please, thank you. Sign me up right now. And my other thought was the Dark Horse Godzilla villains: Cybersaur, the All-Tarantula, Bagora, Brutanus, the Lord Howie monster.
Right, and I think so. Just kind of inside baseball thing. We have this trip in 3 weeks to Vegas doing a licensing expo. There. So the hope is we can close a few of these. Another one we really want to get closer on is Rhinosaurus from 20,000 Fathoms. Yes. That's another one. But there's so many of these, and it's so hard to make a lot of these major studios answer your emails when you're just sitting up cold calling. So we're hoping, we can get some of these more important ones done, because the Giant Claw is under Sony's umbrella, Cloverfield is Paramount, and then also the Toho people are there. And just from a pure, desire standpoint, making Godzilla figures would be fun, just to be able to say, hey, I made a Godzilla figure.
Exactly.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, fingers crossed, man. I mean, we are rooting for you when you go on your trip, and hopefully, like you said, you can close some deals and make some waves, honestly, because I think I speak for Joe too. Like what we've talked about here, like honestly, I think we've become very big fans of you, Titanic Creation, and what you guys are doing for the future, and all your plans. Like, I'm really excited to see this kind of new stuff and different stuff come out that we haven't seen in a very long time. So kudos to you guys.
And thank you so much for that. And I really hope that we're able to keep doing this. And just kind of to reiterate though, but like if you guys haven't bought a Yongary, today is always the best day to buy it. Right.
Absolutely. It is up for pre-order now. Everybody go to TitanicCreations.com and pre-order, and let's hit that 800 goal, so then we can get that 30 centimeter made that I'm craving for and everything. So
Mac, you're awesome. I just want to say that I'm thoroughly impressed by you as as just a person and a businessman, quite frankly. Kudos to you. Hat tip, my friend. You always have a spot here anytime you want to come back and plug something, talk about an upcoming project you're doing. Call us whenever you want. I mean that sincerely.
Thank you so much for having me on, and it's great to see that Carl actually ended up liking me. I mean, I always that guy was the worst. But yeah, if you guys are going to be at G-Fest, make sure to stop by the booth. We're going to have a ton of new stuff and stuff for sale. And also make sure to take a picture of me in the Titanicus costume. I put it on. I sweat to death. Right. At least
all for a good cause.
Yeah. Right. It's my weight loss program during the summer. But yeah, definitely come say hi if you guys are watching or everything. It's great to always meet people who are invested in what we're doing, and because as much as I always talk about licenses and all that, none of this matters if we don't have fans who actually want what we're making, and those people mean more to me than anything in the world.
Absolutely, well said.
Yes.
Well, yeah, I think that's it. We won't keep you anymore. Thank you, Mac, for coming on board. And like you said, we are the small company, putting out phone calls or messages to a bigger company. And luckily you did answer the message and everything and was nice enough to come on here. So thank you. It's been a blast. It's been eye-opening, honestly, because it's been a lot of fun. And I mean, honestly, we just like talking about kaiju stuff and the stuff that we love because it's so fun, and just meeting new people and what you guys are doing for the fandom. It's breathtaking, honestly. So just thank you for your time. Thank you for being here. Thank you for what you're doing, and good luck to the future. And we hope the best for you.
Yep, and thank you guys so much for having me on. It was great getting to talk to you guys.
Absolutely. All right. Yeah, that'll wrap it up for us. Thank you, everybody, for watching live. And if anybody catches this after, check us out on all of our socials, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, Instagram. Obviously, check out Titanic Creations on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Check out all their socials. Go spread the word. Go support for everybody and stuff like that. And yeah, just thank you for tuning in, everybody, and making this another successful Raw Attitude interview. So with that, I think we're going to get out of here. So any last words, Joe?
I got none. Do you have anything, Eric?
Yeah, sure. I got one thing to say.
Okay.
Embrace the attitude.
Embrace the attitude, everybody.
Good night, everybody.